Hey friends, welcome to Your Story Matters podcast. My name is Michaela, and I am so happy you're here. My hope for this show is that we experience the power of storytelling and understand that we are the main characters in our story so that we can live as our truly authentic selves. You're in the right place to hear real stories that will challenge, inspire, and encourage you on your personal growth journey. I hope you enjoy. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Your Story Matters podcast. I am so happy that you are here with me today, and I am equally, if not more happy, to be spending time with Erin Maillo. Did I say it right? I got
Maillo.
nervous. Maillo, thank you. It's like Mario, but not. But like the same love and affection, if you know what I mean. So, Erin, welcome so much to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here and to talk with you.
Yes, this is going to be so good. Let's just dive right in. So, Erin, the big question that I always ask at the beginning of the show, because I don't know what else to ask, is what is your story?
It's a good question. And I'm going to be 45 next month. And I'm like, which story? You know what I mean? I'm just like, I feel like I've had 3 lives already but I guess the interesting place where I find myself now is I moved to Italy with my family 2 years ago. I'm originally from, upstate New York and then California. And that was prompted by so many things going like just horribly wrong in my life. I mean, a beautiful life that I had in California, but it was a lot for me. It was a lot. And so I don't think that I had like a mental breakdown because I was like really holding it together, but like internally, and then externally, I got really sick with IBS. I was losing it, until the point now I was just like, I can't do this anymore. And then like Italy came and it was like, okay, what's going on? So now my life is completely different from what that was. And honestly, I wake up every day and I'm just like, I'm still like trying to adapt to just how different my life is. Yeah.
Yeah, so why Italy of all places?
That's a good question. So my last name, Maillo, is Spanish. I took my husband's last name. He is Spanish. So, which that's not a custom in Spain. That's an American custom. Like his parents think it's really weird. They're like, why do you have like our last name, whatever. But so, because he's European, we have the right to live here legally. And my husband, when he was in college, he did like a year abroad in Florence and like just, he worked as like a nude model for like the art students and like learned Italian perfectly. Like he speaks perfect Italian. And he just had one of those quintessential, probably like years where you just always, it like forever haunts you because you think that you can go back and be 21 again. But he always loved Italy. He always loved speaking Italian. He always wanted to move back here. So he kept talking about it when we were in California. And I'm like, babe, it's great, but it's like, it's not going to happen. Like you have to stop fantasizing about this dream because like we thought when we retired we would move to Italy.
Yeah.
That's a long, we can't make money in Italy. We can't, that's why we left because we met in Spain. I was working as an English teacher and he had just graduated college. And we left and we moved to San Francisco with very quickly because once he came out, it's just the economic reality is so different. Being American, I think that we don't realize the immense amount of economic and employment opportunity we have, at least compared to, I can only speak to Spain, to Italy. It's just a lot more competition. There's not as much opportunity. Yeah. So, yeah.
So let's go ahead and break down the US of A versus Spain and Italy. Tell me things that I need to know about how it is being an American living in Europe, because that's the dream, right? But until it's lived, it's a nightmare because it's a very big culture shock. So just fill me in on a few things.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's funny because there were like memes that I saw that was like making fun of like the difference between vacationing in Italy as opposed to living here. It's very different. vacation, because when you're on vacation, it's like the food and the blah, and like you're just experiencing all and the beauty. It's just gorgeous. It's the architecture. I mean, everywhere you walk, you're just like the sky, the landscape just gets you. That's true on vacation or living here. So that, the food, vacation or living here is incredible. I spoke Spanish because I said I lived in Spain in my 20s. So I spoke Spanish before we moved here. I thought it was just going to be like, well, Italian's like samesies, like it's so easy for me to learn. And like, it's true. They're so similar that like I came knowing almost no Italian and I could understand 80 to 90% of what people were saying. I was like, blah, blah. But speaking, it is very different, and it's so similar. That's been a challenge
Yeah.
because it's like I had this Italian teacher. She told me Italian's much easier for your husband because Spanish is his first language. Spanish was my second language, and I
Mm.
spoke it for 20 years. So it like inhabited my brain. So now the Italian coming in is just like, I still speak a sort of hybrid even after 2 years. I can't help myself. So that's been a little challenging because living in Spain, I learned Spanish very quickly. It was 6 months because I was thrown into the water. And here I have a husband, I have a son. I don't work like in the community really, although I did this summer and I learned quite a lot of Italian because I worked at this summer camp with little kids.
Oh,
They didn't, I was supposed to be teaching English, but they could not, really, they were 5. And so I learned a lot of Italian actually with them. So the Italian has been tricky but good. It's been the whole stereotype of the Italian bureaucracy in my experience is very true. It's very frustrating. It's very frustrating because it's just so slow and so confusing. Even for Italians, it is. And so for foreigners, it's nearly impossible. And if you pay for lawyers and this and whatnot, you can make your way through. But if you don't pay, it's kind of a nightmare. So just getting a visa was like the internet doesn't work. You know what I mean? Like you can't make an appointment. You can't like the internet doesn't
goodness.
work here like it does in the state. Like you can't just like be like, oh, I'm gonna look and see if this restaurant's open. That information is not valid. Like you
Mm.
have to go. You can't trust anything that's online. Nothing is done online. Nothing. Which is so weird, Like it's just like, what do you mean I can't sign up online? You have to go to the place, you have to call. So there's just like little things like that that is just like, wow, this is, when I was in Spain, I was so young. I was in my early 20s and it was like a big adventure. Now, then I went back to the States. I was there for 15 years. It's like I did my whole like adult lifing there and like
Yeah.
figured everything out. And then to come here, it's like my husband has to handle a lot of things because I'm like, I don't get it. I don't understand. Like so I feel a little bit like a child in some ways.
Mm.
Weird, which has its positives and negatives.
Of course.
But when I
Absolutely.
like over responsibility, it's kind of nice to take a step back and just be like, I can't do that,
Yeah. Yeah. That's a fascinating insight.
Yeah.
That's good. So good. All right. So you mentioned a little bit earlier about IBS. So we'll talk a lot about that here. What was your journey into being diagnosed health wise and just kind of what was that like for you?
Yeah, that was hard. That was hard. That happened, let's see. I started having symptoms like a year after my son was born, although I probably had like IBS before that. It was just I was so sleep deprived, work deprived and just crazy that I don't think I was just like in survival mode. So then when he finally started sleeping, I was like, there's something wrong.
Mm.
And I thought it was really bad because I would get super bloated, and have so much stomach pain that I was like, is it cancer? I visited the emergency room many, many times because I would have these episodes and it was so foreign to me because I always had a very strong stomach, like I could eat whatever. And like I never had any food allergies, never had any sensitivities, was never picky about any of that. And so when it happened, it just really floored me. I thought that there was something really seriously wrong. And then when, I went through the process of like the CT scan and this, and nothing was really wrong. And that's when they're like, well, you have IBS. And I'm like, okay, like I have something. There's going to be something I can do. But there really wasn't. It was just kind of like, well, I remember they were like, make sure you're drinking enough water and eating enough fiber. I was just kind of like, that's the advice? Like, that's it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, this is a serious problem in my life. Like, I wasn't able to eat very much. My stomach would get so bloated that I would just eat a little bit and I would feel really bloated. Like I wasn't taking in the nutrients and like processing them in the way. Like my whole system was like completely slowed down and stuck for a while. And I had to figure it out completely on my own. Yeah.
How do you even know where to look? I can only imagine how stressful and irritating not having the medical help that you think you would have when
Yeah.
there's a
I
diagnosis of like,
didn't
hey, this.
yeah. I didn't really know where to look. I just was like, but I just kind of like I don't really remember doing a ton of research online, but maybe I did. It's just so it's just so hazy. I did find a naturopath doctor and she was helpful. Because we, like, did a stool test and, like, she kind of explained more, like, what could potentially be going on. I saw an acupuncturist. I was just, like, trying a lot of different things, I was just going in this direction, this direction. Finally, I went back to the doctor and she's like, "Have you ever heard of the low FODMAP diet?" And this was after, like, a year that I had been diagnosed, so probably I'd been having symptoms for 2 or 2.5 years, and I was like, "No, what is it? What is it?" And she's like, "Yeah, some people with IBS find that if they do that diet, it's helpful." And that was big for me
Mm,
because it wasn't so that's just like it's a super restrictive diet. You take out like all of these things that could potentially be triggering you and then you slowly reintroduce them to find out like because I didn't know. It's just like it was just everything. It felt like everything. I wasn't able to pinpoint. But then through there I was like, okay, there are specific things that are causing me to have at this point like a really strong reaction and I just kind of cut those out. And that gave me breathing room. Like doing the low FODMAP diet did not cure my IBS. I think that's a huge misconception is people just like it's not really about the food unless you have like celiacs or you have like a specific food intolerance, which I didn't, but reducing those for a time, it gave me breathing room to like bring my system down and just kind of like allowed me to get a break and calm down and do other things that I think in the long term what helped me heal. Thank God.
absolutely.
Yeah.
In the midst of all of this, trying new diets and giving it time to work and kind of just live in your body, how is that affecting you on the daily? Of again, you said earlier, like not being able to eat, and then until FODMAP was introduced, like what is Erin like on the daily of just like here we go another day trying to figure this shit out?
It was really hard. And honestly, the IBS was just like another like shit sandwich that I was dealing with. Like I had to be at school. I worked as a teacher in public school, which was a job that originally I loved. And then year after year just felt like more and more stressful for me. More and more like, even though I was getting better as a teacher, it wasn't getting easier, and I was getting more and more sensitive. Like, why is this happening? Like, I was like outraged on a daily basis that I was like even part of this system where I felt like I was being so left behind and the kids were, it felt like it was like I was in a corrupt environment. Honestly, I
Mm,
don't know if it is the truth or it is just my perception at the time. Because I know a lot of it is how you look at it, but it just felt yeah, it just felt really hard. I felt more and more emotionally connected to the students and more like I can't do anything, like more helpless, I guess. And so I would go, I had a little son, he was only like 2 or 3 at that time or 4, it all blends together, and he was that was hard. And then going to work and just, like, working all day, I would work out at 5 in the morning because I needed to for my sanity, but I was so anxious about work, I was so anxious about sleep. It was just like I was just a bundle of anxiety, and then I would get
Yeah.
home, and the IBS was worse at night because I think it was just, like, all day, my system was just, like, being attacked.
Yep.
That's how it felt to me, and I didn't know how to manage it. And so I would come home and then it was like, the whole like the laundry and the dishes and the cleaning the house. And I was very perfectionistic and I didn't feel okay if there was like disorder in the house. So I would just run around like cleaning, 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 just like doing laundry, blah. And so I was just on like high alert from
Mm.
5 a.m. until like 9 p.m. And then I would try to lay down and sleep, and I would be so anxious about sleep that I wouldn't sleep well because I'd be like, "What if I don't get enough?" And I'd, like, calculate the hours, and so the IBS thing was kind of just another thing that I was dealing with. It didn't even feel at that time like even the top 3 concerns that I had,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. It's
So
another layer of the cake.
exactly. It was really hard, and I don't think that a lot of people, like, in my life at that time, they even knew.
Yeah.
It was just my husband, really. I think that he was, like because I was just like, "I'm doing okay, I'm doing" because once when it's like, this is the job I've trained for my whole life. This is the marriage that I'm in. I finally had a baby. We bought a house. It was like everything that we had wanted to do, we had saved for so long to buy this house in California, which is so expensive. And it felt like what I had been working for my entire life, there we were. And it was such a hot mess that I
Mm.
was like, what am I gonna do? This is the
Yeah.
top. This is
Yeah.
the epitome of what my life is supposed to be, and it's too much for me,
Mm.
you know? It's too much. I can't do it. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. And just, it's a great reminder of how society says we are supposed to have all these things in X amount of years. And yeah, it's like when you have everything, then what? No, there's so much conversation and emphasis around building the life that you want. But then when you get there, there's almost no conversation about great, how to maintain it. How do you make it sustainable? Or even what do you do next? And so that's really great to hear, even though it wasn't great to live. And I acknowledge that for you. But it was just like, it's nice to hear that once you have everything, that doesn't mean you're always happy or satisfied. Right. Like, because there's so many other things affecting life. So, kind of when we're at the penultimate of all of this kind of colliding in your world, what was kind of the turning point for things getting a little bit easier or seeing that light at the end of the tunnel and trying to walk towards it?
Yeah, I mean, I really at the time, the whole IBS thing was a nightmare, but now I look back at it and I'm like, "Oh my god," like, IBS like, dealing with the IBS was such a huge wake-up call for me because
Mm.
what really started shifting my healing was, yes, the diet, but then it was like I learned this strategy where I would be in this pain and this stress, and I just was like, I can't do it anymore, and I would just lay down on the bed, and I would put like this hot water bottle over my stomach, and I would just like breathe really deeply, and I would just like really try to calm down, and I would like send love to my stomach, like that
Mm.
whole area. Instead of what I was doing before was like, "Oh God, no, how long is it gonna last? What happened?" Oh, well, I would do, and I learned to just kind of like interrupt it and just drop everything. Well, I can't go lay down. There's so much things to do. It's the middle of the night routine, with a toddler. It's 7 o'clock. You can't stop. And I just like
Yeah.
I had to. I just had to. Like there was no other option for me. And so I think through that, I became aware of how high strung and anxious and stressed I was. I didn't know.
Mm.
I just thought my life is stressful, which it
Yeah.
was, but
Right.
also I was a stress case,
Mm.
It was like, and I realized I had been trying so long to make my job work, and the truth of it was that it wasn't gonna work. It wasn't gonna work for me. But I had invested it just was not a good environment for me to be in a classroom with that many kids alone for that amount of time with my personality and just my personality. I couldn't relax. It felt like too much responsibility. I took it really, really seriously. I put a lot of pressure on myself. And I tried to lower that. I tried to change grades. There's so many things that I tried to leave at 3 p.m. All the things that they say teachers are supposed to do. You need to learn to set boundaries. And it's like, okay, but I leave at 3 p.m. and then the next day I go in and my lesson plans are shit.
Yeah.
So it's like just the way the system was set up just wasn't going to work for me. So I just realized I'm like, I got to quit my job. We have this mortgage, like we depend my I was like half of my family income came from me. And it was like, I don't know what I'm going to have to do next year because I literally have experience in nothing else. I was like, I think I'm just going to work at Trader Joe's and like, I knew this and I had started teaching bar. So that was another thing that I was like, maybe I can like teach bar and work at Trader Joe's. And like, I lived in wine country and I thought I knew this woman who did like wine tastings and stuff on the weekends. I'm like, I'll just do that. Like, I can't do this job anymore.
Mm.
And I'm going to have to hustle and I'm going to have to do what I have to do, but that's it. Like I give up. And that's when my husband was like, "Well, if you're not going to go back to work, maybe we can take like an extended vacation in Italy." Because he was with the Italy thing. And I'm like, okay.
I'm suddenly available.
Like, um, and it was like, maybe we could take like 3 months. And then it was like, maybe we could take 6 months. And then it was like, maybe we could take a year. Maybe we could take a year off. And so we kept kind of like extending it and being like, yeah, like doing the math of because we were really good at budgeting. Like we had been like we knew how to cut the budget. So we're like, we're just gonna like cut it down. Italy's really cheap to live in. We're gonna cut it down and we're gonna save enough money to be able to do like a year sabbatical and you can figure it out. And I'm like, that's incredible. Okay. Didn't think that was gonna. And then this was right after COVID. So
Mm.
then after soon within a couple months, the rules changed. My husband's a therapist. He's a MFT. The rules changed for therapists that they could work remotely seeing their clients. They could be wherever as long as their clients were in the state that they were licensed in. So he could have a private practice of California patients or clients. I don't know which he refers to them as, and he could live wherever.
Oh, wow.
And this all happened like tick, 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 like in succession. It's almost like one of those things where you're just like, wow, like I guess it was all a coincidence but sometimes it feels like the way that it happened was so much more than a coincidence
Yeah.
because it happened in just such, succession and came. Yeah, just I basically just like had been taken down. I had just been like taken down to my
Yeah.
knees and, kind of admitted defeat, almost like an addict, when they get to the point where they're just like, I just can't. But it was like my addiction was like, I don't know, it was like being good, doing the right thing, following through with what I said, being responsible, all the things that we're taught that we're supposed to
Yeah.
be.
So on this side of the world now, what things from maybe the last 10, 15 years have you taken with you, and what things have you left behind? Ideologies, opinions,
Mm,
etc.
that's a good question. I mean, what I've taken with me is like who I am. You know what I mean? Like that's the kind of funny thing about it is like it's I work a lot less now, a lot less. And it's incredible and I feel like I sleep super well. You know, I just really don't have a lot of stress in my life now. But it's kind of incredible to think about. Like when we first moved here, I would find myself like I would start getting worked up about things that I had to do. Like, well, I said I was going to make a lasagna today and I have to do the laundry and I have to sweep. And I would like stop myself and I'd be like, wow, like you cannot, you like, you're here. You don't have to cook any lasagna or do the laundry or like, you're just so used to this way of being
Yeah.
that it's hard to step out of that. It's hard. Like, even though you know it's not working for you, even though you know that it's not necessary. I think the difference now is that I'm aware of it,
Mm,
right? So, whereas before I wasn't, I just
that's
thought,
good.
no, my life is unmanageable. And to be honest, it kind of was unmanageable. I really don't know. I feel like everywhere we need to have some kind of like come to Jesus about women and women in the workforce and women being mothers because I thought I never could be a mother because I had to work and it was gonna be too much. So I
Yeah.
like put it off. I was like, I can't do that. I can't do that. That's too much. I don't know how I'm gonna do that because I have to work and it's too much if you have to work full time and be a mother. And that's what I had in my head. And that's why I was like, no, 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 I'm not gonna have kids. I'm not gonna have kids until kind of the last minute I changed my mind because I did want to have kids. I desperately
Yeah.
I was a primary school teacher. I loved kids. Like sometimes I look back at it now and I'm like, did you want to be a teacher or did you want to be a mother?
Mm,
Allow yourself that it's weird, isn't it? That like
yeah. It
now in this
is.
the way I was raised, it's like I look back and I'm like, all I was taught from everyone was like your career and what are you going to study and it's so much focus on that. It's like there's no mention of like that's just kind of an afterthought, you know.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
it's hard. It's, men are not, they're just not up to par yet in term, it's just I don't know, they don't feel the same pressure. I don't know what it is. They just it's tricky.
They don't have to be mothers. That there's a lot, right? And stress affects both men and women differently. It shows up differently in their bodies. There's different social expectations if you're a man going to work full time versus a woman going to work full time and everywhere in between. Um yeah, and it's one of those things again, going back to earlier, a little bit of like you're supposed to do all these things in succession and it is supposed to happen and you are supposed to be a working mom and all of the and then a wife and then a housekeeper and all these things and it's like something's going to have to give eventually because we weren't designed to handle all of that all at the same time, right? So there is a lot of bravery in that choice of I have to step away from my job because it's no longer serving me in the way I thought it was. And I know that my health matters. Right. And so that's very commendable to be like, I worked my whole life for something in order to go, you know what? It's not sustainable anymore. So kudos to you because sometimes I think people just push through those things of I know something's kind of off kilter here, but I just need to push through. I just need to do it, do it, do it. But it's a lot to say no, because society doesn't want us to say no, right?
Yes.
There's so much about, like, you
They
need to
wanna
just
just
keep.
push us to the limit.
Yes, and then look at us. Yes, it's the cycle of like, okay, then we're not sleeping, then we're self-medicating, or then we're medicating because, we have to in conversation with doctors and all of that is good stuff. And then our eating is affecting, what we're doing and all of these things. So it's like this giant I talk all the time with friends, like it's just this giant cycle of like, wow, we're really not set up to win because of the pressures, because of what's been said to us. And not all of it is terrible, we were just being told what other people told other people. You know what I mean? Until we take a stand, until we put a flag in the ground and say, "Nah, this is not working for me." So you're taking all of the work of your last several years and now you're putting it into this coaching,
Mm.
which is just wild. I love hearing people, I've done this thing for decades and now I'm not, and I'm just like, how did you survive the in between? So how did you decide to spin this story on its head and be like, you know what? I actually now want to help other people, women specifically, with the issues that I was having. How did that start? What light bulb clicked and said, "You know what? Let's give this a shot."
Yeah, that's an interesting story. So when I decided to quit my job and then we were going to go to Italy, I was like, okay, I'm going to change careers. I'm going to change careers. What I'm going to do. So then I went to a career coach and I had always been in therapy for like a long time, like a lot of therapy. And I'd never been to a coach before. And I was like, I kind of had like I had like, all those weird things that people have in their heads about coaching, how it's like sleazy, like the kind
Yep.
of
Yep.
societal, but she was super helpful and we just went through like all of my interests and all of my passions and she was just like, we came down and it was like this, and it was like, yes, that's what I should do. Like I have been obsessed with health forever for a really, really long time and just been going like in different areas and different directions, but always in something, if it's nutrition or if it's like, as I said, I was teaching bar for a while. I was in physical therapy for a long time after my son was born, because I had diastasis recti. So I went down a huge rabbit hole in that area. And it's just like,
Uh,
um, a huge passion of mine. And then I was like, you know what? Like when I had IBS, I had no clue what was happening. I did like as I told you, it was a complete nightmare. I had no support, I had no help. And I was like, I would have really appreciated having someone like me who had been through it, who could be like, try this, try because it's not like I mean, sometimes people are like, well, shouldn't like a doctor be doing that? And it's like, well, yeah, I guess a doctor should be doing this, but like they aren't. They don't. So, you know, you need someone else to help you. And a lot of IBS has to do with, I mean, it's so complex. It's just so layered. There's so many things. There's lifestyle, there's sleep, but it's really what it is like a gut to brain access dysfunction, which I mean, doctors had said, oh, it's related to stress. And I'm like, okay, how does that help? What am I supposed to do? I can't change my life, So I just decided when I changed careers, I was like, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to help women who have IBS because I needed help. And I think,
yeah.
you know, where I am now is like exactly the kind of person that I would have needed. Someone
Mm,
relatable, someone, like that knew exactly. I'm not looking at it like you're a stress case or whatever. Like, no, it's a lot more nuanced than that.
yeah. And stress covers so many areas. I love one-liners from doctors and just other people when they're like, "It's this," and then crickets are chirping, and you're like, "Is there more?"
Mhm.
And so, yeah, a lot of the health is figuring it out yourself. And the whole point of this show and having guests on and just, sharing stories is really the power of being self aware. And it sometimes takes some time. It's not an overnight sensation. We're not, get rich quick schemes. Like, we're not here. We're not about that here, but it is, taking some time evaluating your life and being like, hey, there are some things that need to change. And then there is the power to like how you move your body, what you eat, how your mind behaves and thinks about moving your body, what your body eats. So it's a lot there. So how has now coaching just changed you? Again, where we started even at the beginning of this episode and now look at you. Like it's so inspiring to be like, hey, we changed the narrative. We did it. It took a long time and it was hard, but we did it. So how are you changed with coaching? How do you see yourself show up differently?
So differently, so differently. Yeah, I think one of the main things that have changed is just seeing so many different people's lives and stories, and how much our realities are based around the way that we think about our lives and what our
Hmm.
possibilities are and what's possible for us, and what's going on and what we have to do. It's people are just so in that because that's how they were raised, but it's not necessarily like the truth. Do you know what I mean? And so seeing that for myself in my own life, um, it gives me a lot of compassion too for other people because I went down kicking and screaming. Do you know what I mean? It's not like I was like, yeah, I'm stressed. I'll just fix that or whatever. Or, yeah, I need to leave my job. I guess I'll just leave. These are like big, big decisions. They're big identity shifts. They require just a lot of like hand holding and like compassion, but also like sometimes they require a little bit of confrontation too, and a little bit
Yeah,
of
that's good.
like accountability because sometimes people think that they're doing something that they're actually not doing, and really committing to your health and well-being in like a serious way. It's a lot of work and it's like it takes there's sacrifices, it's not you can't have I'm sorry, I feel like you can't have everything.
Mm,
You know what I mean? You can't have everything.
yeah,
You have to choose. You have to choose the kind of life that you want. And it takes a lot of hard work and it takes a lot of, like you said, self-awareness and introspection. And like, it's for me, it's also very confronting.
yeah,
For me
that's good.
personally, it's just like, wow, I just feel like my whole life now is just like, look what you like in the past couple of years, my entire marriage has changed, for
Mm,
instance, because I've become aware of thoughts and beliefs and resentments and ways of being that I had been holding on to for a long time. And I'm like, dude, like, is this how you want to live your relationship for the next 20 or 30 years, or do you want to be happy? Like, do you want to stay married and be happy, or do you want to leave? Like, you
yep,
need to choose. You're not a victim to like being married. You could get divorced. So like, is it worth fighting for? It's like one of those things. It's like once you open one bucket, it's like all these
yeah,
other buckets come like falling down and you're like, whoa, I didn't necessarily think that there was a problem there that I needed to look at it. But it's like now I'm so grateful because I'm just like, yeah, it's like, a wound. It's like you kind of like pick at it and then it's like
hmm,
undo it. And then it's like you had to clean that out. And it's not always comfortable.
yeah.
But then when
It's
you
hard to
clean
do
it
right.
out, you're like, "Oh my god, I can't believe I was living with that amount of pressure and resentment." And now when I have all of those feelings and thoughts and because it's not like it ever goes away, you know what I mean? It's
Right.
like
Yeah,
it's just now I'm just like I feel like I have a different mindset about it.
yeah.
I have more
That's the
compassion.
name of the game. Different mindset. Erin, we love it. As we're wrapping up here, what is your next chapter? How do you see your story unfolding with so much change and big change that's happened? What's next for you?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I mean, we're definitely going to be staying here in Europe, in Italy. That was kind of in question. So that's going to stay. I'm still working on my business. I really want to become I want to get trained as a Pilates instructor as well.
Ooh, how fun.
Yeah, I really love I don't think I'm like really more into like strength training and stuff, but I just kind of like secretly love Pilates. I don't as a health coach, I don't think you should be doing Pilates like 4 or 5 days a week. Some people get really into like a certain kind of exercise. I think you should like diversify as much as you possibly can. So I just happen to like Pilates. And I'm just like I just have this spaciousness in my life. I'm just like, "Oh my gosh, like now like I'm a mother and like that part of my life has its rightful space. And like he's going to turn 8 this year and I'm just like, oh my God, in 10 years, he's going to maybe leave. Or in Italy, they stay longer. So maybe he'll stay longer.
There you go.
But I'm just
There's
like,
hope.
yeah, I'm just like, I'm holding on to that as just like, oh, this precious time with him and being with him and just like living our lives and just kind of trying to be just as peaceful and happy as is reasonably possible. That's
Yeah,
basically the plan.
I love it. I love it so much. Eat a big plate of pasta for me tonight.
And now I can because I
No,
did
you can't.
I did cut out gluten for a long time, but I've recently been able to reincorporate it, so
Yeah,
I can
good.
eat pasta.
We love it. Erin, thank you so much for your time today. Your story matters. Thank you so much for sharing it with us.
Well, thank you so much, Michaela. It was really lovely speaking to you.
Thanks for listening. I invite you to subscribe to this podcast wherever you listen, give it a rating, and review while you're at it. It really goes a long way. And check out the show notes for all the ways to stay connected with me and our guests. Until the next episode.